Anybody want to know what Buster Posey's thinking right now?
Has he weighed in?
No.
How about Buster only?
I don't think he has either.
Okay.
I mean, he might have some facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Giants have fired Gabe Kapler. If you're just joining us, Willard and Dibs 95-7 the game. The Giants are on the search for a new manager. The announcement was made by Farhan Zaidi, so I'm going to go ahead and put a couple puzzle pieces together and guess that Farhan Zaidi's not going anywhere. So there's your answer in terms of what the Giants are doing this offseason to I don't want to say placate the fan base, but make changes. Logan Webb called for changes. Farhan said yesterday everything needs to be on the table. Greg Johnson, the chairman, ownership group, said, I agree with Farhan. Well, those changes have begun, and they started with the ouster of Gabe Kapler. So here's what I would say about this, and we would love to hear from you. 888-957-9570. We knew there was going to be a move. Is this the right one? So it's not fair. It's not fair, but that doesn't mean it's not right. That's what I would say in a short term about this move. In other words, do I think that this was all Gabe's fault? No. And like almost anything in life, when something goes wrong, it's very rare that it's all the fault of one person. Does Farhan have some blame here? You're damn right. Do the players have some blame here? Oh, for sure. Does the process have some blame? Does ownership share in the blame? Yeah. But ownership can't fire themselves. That's not the way companies work. And the bottom line is new calculus was needed. And when you have a clubhouse that is now openly stating things like communication breakdown, didn't know our roles, too many people in the clubhouse who didn't care, we lacked focus, all of these things point to one office, and it's the on-field boss. Now, can we very accurately say, what the hell was he supposed to do? You gave him injured players, rookies. You gave him a roster that couldn't measure up. So what was he supposed to do? Fair point. But no matter who you gave him, it sounds like things were not managed perfectly, number one. And number two, life ain't fair. This fan base and its attendance figures needed a change. And so this was the one.
Yeah, and this is the one because of everything that you described, because you're never going to have anybody in an organization say, our players aren't good enough. And, you might show that action by replacing the president of baseball operations, but in this case, they didn't. And the fact that Farhan Zaidi issued the statement thanking Gabe Kapler, that tells you all you need to know about where they think the majority of the fault lies. Whether you agree or not, that's up to you to have an opinion on that, but the organization clearly thinks that Gabe Kapler was more of the problem than Farhan Zaidi. And maybe Farhan Zaidi is still a problem, and maybe he's down to his last chance going into this upcoming year, but you don't let him issue the statement if you think that he was a problem. You could have had Larry Baer. You could have had one of the Johnsons issue a statement. You could have had Pete Patilla issue the statement. But the fact that Farhan issued it, that tells you all I need to know about how they feel about Farhan, at least for now.
Well, there's one thing you said there that I want to, let's pull it apart a little bit. That ownership believes that Gabe Kapler was the problem.
The bigger problem of the two.
I don't know if I see it that way. I understand where you're coming from, but here's what I'm saying. I think ownership realized there was a problem. And when an organization has a problem, they got to fix it. And they're not always going to do that in the most fair and equitable way. And every single one of you listening to our voices right now can relate. Have you ever worked at a place where somebody got let go and you're like, oh, crap, that wasn't the problem? No, but there was a problem, and they needed to fix it. For a lot of organizations, it's our payroll is too high or what have you, and you got to fix it. The Giants, this is one of those rare situations in sports. I think a lot of times fans go, oh, look, we're all sitting here talking and we're on sports radio and we got opinions, and everyone's like, it doesn't matter. Like you can tell Kyle Shanahan that it's Super Bowl or bust. The Niners don't care. It's not.
He got an extension.
They got an extension.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no problem here. But this is one of the rare situations where the fan base was a problem. And I don't mean your opinions were a problem. I mean your actions became a problem for the Giants. You didn't show up, and you didn't care. And you also largely didn't like Gabe. Whether he did a good job or not, on a human level, you didn't like him. Look what he represents. He represented tinkering. He represented platoons. He represented perfection, detailed perfection. He represented GQ magazine, cheeseburgers on IG. You should see, and I know a lot of you listening, obviously you can't unless you're on there. You should see our YouTube chat right now. There are people celebrating. Bye, Gabe! As if it was like personal. Why? There's something about Gabe Kapler that doesn't vibe with the every person.
I'm going to quote our very own John Dickinson, who on this station multiple times in the past year or two used the F word, although it's spelled with a PH, and that word is phony. And John Dickinson speaks for himself, but I think that his opinion represents not a large number of the fans, but I'll tell you this, I have somebody with whom I'm very close. I might actually live with her, and I told her the news, and there wasn't much sadness when it came to that.
Right.
Actually, it was the response I got was Farhan should be next.
Well, a lot of people are saying that, but that's not going to happen.
Not yet, not now, and I agree with you in terms of where we are right now, and that's where I look at this, and if you want to say that Kapler was 60% at fault and Farhan was 40%, it doesn't matter. They had to do something. And listening to some of the people closest to the Giants organization, the word they've been using is that Gabe Kapler might have been too soft. He might have been too player-friendly. It's one thing to be a player's coach. It's another thing to be too soft on players to where you don't have the ability to come in and right the ship when things go south. And that's what I think that this team suffered from. They were too comfortable, the players. There were too many things that were comfortable and easy for them. You didn't have that edge. We have a boss that we all pretty much universally like. You've been in radio a long time, so have I.
Oh, just because he's standing in the next room. Good
Lord.
There is
that slight sliver of an edge to where, he might call you on the carpet.
Sure,
he might flip a spread.
Well, and
I don't think Kapler's that guy.
I think you're onto something. I don't know if soft is the word that I would use. To me, it's more laissez-faire. Gabe Kapler very clearly would state, I'm going to let you police yourselves. And I'm going to use that impression.
That impression.
I got about 3 hours left on the impression.
That's it.
So, by the way, Giants, whoever you hire next, make him somebody who's impersonatable, if you will.
Baritone.
I mean.
Do you do a Kai Correa?
Not yet.
Do you do a Bob Melvin?
Not yet.
Do you do an Alyssa Nacken?
No. Not baritone enough.
That would be a profound.
Oh my gosh. That'd be an incredible
That would be
hire.
a profound hire.
Yeah. So anyway, you're right. The Giants got to a spot where they turned off their fan base so much that they had to do something. For many of you, you do think Gabe Kapler did a poor job. I think that if you really want to now start to nitpick, let's dive deep into what Gabe did well and what he didn't do well. Gabe Kapler, you'll hear a lot of people, oh gosh, he manages the bullpen like an idiot. No, he didn't, actually. The Giants' bullpen performance throughout his 4-year tenure was way more good than bad. Plus, I don't know, have you watched the way the beloved watch the way he's managed a bullpen in Texas this year? They've had a horrible second half. There's a lot of guesswork when it comes to bullpen. If you knew who was going to come in and throw a gas ball, then you wouldn't go to him. But you don't know that. I think where Gabe struggled was not that on-field stuff. I think it was behind the scenes. I think it's what you're talking about. I don't think that he was in the face of everyone enough. I don't think he was relatable enough. I'm not saying as a boss you got to be one of the guys, But let's look at Gabe Kapler. The same reason a lot of people are celebrating this firing is the same reason he struggled, I think, behind the scenes with the Giants. He is a hard guy to relate to. He perfect beard, perfect physique, kind of an odd way of talking to people, right? He's on Instagram after the game. He's not one of the dudes. And that's okay. I don't know if Boch was one of the dudes either, but I feel like he could get on the level of another human being in a way different way than Gabe Kapler can. And so that causes an issue because there's a communicative discord in that clubhouse, and that is his responsibility.
Well, that's really his only responsibility. The modern-day manager only has to do one thing, and that is manage the people, because the spreadsheet will tell you, especially when you're an analytics-driven organization, as they are, the spreadsheet's going to tell you pretty much what you need to do and who you need to play when. So then it comes down to your ability to communicate to human beings and make these human beings feel and be ready to perform at their absolute best. And if you do that a certain way, and he did it this way 2 years ago, I don't think he changed his managerial style.
Nope.
But you had three guys who had career years. You had a more durable, better starting rotation. You won 107 games, and so now he's a genius. And he's the newfound manager in MLB.
But what'd you have in 2021 that you don't have now?
You had three guys with career years.
Keep going.
You had Buster Posey.
Thank you.
You had a guy in the locker room who was a three-time champ, who was a possible Hall of Famer, who could police the clubhouse without having to police the clubhouse.
If I'm going to allow the players to police themselves, that's going to work when I've got Buster.
Correct.
And it's not going to work when I don't.
And if you don't have Buster and you realize at a certain point that things are starting to go a little bit haywire, then you as a manager, and your number one job is to actually manage the 25 guys in the clubhouse. And it's not all his fault that it was Schmidt up and Schmidt down. Luciano's here, he's gone. Here's Matos. Don't forget about Ramos. And here's Joey, and now Joey's gone. And all the rest of that back and forth, that makes it harder to manage a clubhouse when you're doing name tag baseball. And that's what this team was.
888-957-9570. Gabe Kapler has been fired by the San Francisco Giants. Is this the right move? Is this the only move that needs to be made? We'll take your calls throughout the afternoon, 888-957-9570. And let's be honest, for the brigade out there that is saying, okay, now do Farhan, because I know there's a ton of you. For that brigade, I would say this. Don't believe that this is some massive vote of confidence for Farhan. Organizations do this all the time. Farhan's above Gabe. Tim Kawakami said this to us 2 days ago. Farhan has got to show up to ownership with a plan. And he did. And that plan included firing the manager. They said so in the release. He said, I presented them with this, and they approved it. So this kind of thing happens all the time. I do not believe ownership brought Farhan in and went, okay, so you're our guy, so what do you think we should do with Gabe Kapler? Ownership brought Farhan in and said, what's your plan? And hey, Farhan, we got a problem here. We cannot trot the same scenario out in April. We can't do it. So that's off the table. Farhan, I don't even know if you're safe, but put something in front of us that is going to make us feel comfortable about where we're going, and it better involve some sort of tangible change right away, and then we'll decide if what you're saying makes sense to us. In some ways, Farhan had no choice but to fire Gabe. Quite frankly, he can't walk in there with any plan that doesn't include some massive change. And what other change on September 29th can he make?
Right, other than his own resignation, which he's not going to do. And I wonder if a part of his meeting was, look, this is who I want to hire as manager.
I'm sure it was.
And I wonder who that is. I mean, a lot of people on the YouTube chat and elsewhere are saying, oh, Buster Posey. It's Buster Posey. And if that's the move,
that'd be amazing.
That would energize the fan base. That's for sure. Whether or not he's actually going to be a good manager if he wants to manage, these are all secondary questions. But would that hire energize the fan base? you bet your sweet patootie it would.
Oh, my gosh.
And I think that Bob Melvin would be an upgrade. I think that would help the fan base. I don't know if that would energize the fan base, but I don't know what managerial hire actually would now that Gabe Kapler's out, because you need to bring in somebody who won't be afraid to put their foot in somebody's behind when they need to do that.
But I also think that, for me, I could be totally wrong here, but I'm going to remove the idea that a lot of people are going to have, which, the pendulum swings. And when it goes one way and it doesn't work, you swing it sometimes too hard in the other direction. So that's what you just said is what everyone's going to want. Give me an old school butt kicker.
Somebody.
Let's go. Let's get some boot kickers in here. Let's flip some tables and forget with all this analytics.
Let's dot somebody.
Farhan's still making this hire, folks.
Yeah, right.
Farhan's making this hire. Okay, so
is he?
Well, I'm sure that there's oversight
more so now than before.
Absolutely, absolutely. But put it this way: as much as I love the guy, you ain't hiring Ron Wotus. That's not what this organization's going to do.
You're not hiring Kai Correa.
You're going
to hire somebody who was the lieutenant on a failed coaching staff? That, to me, would be...
I would doubt
no disrespect to Kai Correa.
He's on the list.
I don't know enough about what Kai would be as a manager, but the optics of it are bad. So you go from Gabe to Diet Gabe?
Not Diet Gabe.
Gabe Light?
He's just standing over there. He just got glasses. Other than that, what is the comp? I got no comp for Kai and Gabe.
The comp
Both of them have names that are one syllable. What are we saying here?
We're saying that, he is basically Gerald Ford to Kapler's Tricky Dick Nixon.
I'm
and
with
Ford
you.
Ford never got elected.
That's probably not it, but I bet he's on the list more than Wotus is. But my bigger point is this. You're right that if it's not Buster Posey, and I have no reason to know that it is and no reason to know that it isn't, but it would surprise me. That would surprise me a lot. But outside of Buster, is there anyone else that you could put in that spot that's going to quickly energize the fan base? No, it's a manager. You're only going to see him when he goes and gets the pitcher. This isn't going to be, you're not going to be any happier 2 weeks into the season unless they've got somebody who can hit. That's what this team needs. But what they need right now, somebody needed to poke the logs of the fire and change the calculus of this organization simply because people were so damn mad. So that's what they did. But, is the manager position in Major League Baseball exciting? By definition, whatever. This is a guy who's sitting there, watches the game, makes some decisions, walks out there when somebody needs to get yanked. So you're right. It's either Buster or somebody that's not going to excite you until we see the product on the field.
Right. Jim Leland is the correct answer.
Right.
He'll be 79 in December. He's still got some fire left in the old. Totally. You need to bring somebody in, and in the meantime, you need to win the press conference whenever this hire happens. And, if it's Bob Melvin, you can at least sell it as a homecoming. If San Diego decides they want to part ways with Bob Melvin, and there's a lot of conjecture that Bob Melvin does not want to be a Padre manager any longer. So if he becomes free, is he a guy that moves the needle in the fan base? Because that's what you need right now, Mark, more than the wins, because you can't get the wins until April. You need somebody that you can tell the fan base, hey, look, I know you didn't love Kapler. We got this new manager in. You're going to love him, and let's go. We're ready to turn this thing around.
By the way, you know who comes alongside Bob Melvin or could come separately if Bob's not leaving the Padres? The third base coach in San Diego.
Is that Matt Williams?
Matt Williams.
Okay.
A little bit more of a butt kicker.
Definitely.
A little bit more of a butt kicker.
For sure, and I think Giants fans would be a little bit trepidatious at his lack of managerial success. He's had a couple of good years, but I think he's probably at winning percentage of about .460, I would guess.
Well, remember, he didn't just manage the Washington Nationals. He also managed the Kia Tigers. And, I think that they...
Kia.
I think they did pretty well. By the way, when he was the manager of the Nationals, 96 and 66 and 83 and 79. Those are his 2 years.
Yeah, winning percentage of .552.
Yeah.
Matt Williams.
And lost in the NLDS to the Giants.
Okay.
Brandon Belt, home run, 18th inning. That was Matt Williams.
Manager of the year, too, much like your guy. Former Giants manager.
That hurts.
Sorry about that, Mr. Yapler.
Too soon.
Totally.
At least give me the weekend.
I'm going to miss that impersonation unless he gets a job somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Chris and Rocky, we see the lines lighten up. We really want to hear from you. So we're coming to the phone calls straight away next here. 888-957-9570. Yeah, all these questions are on the table. Was this the right time? Was this the right move? And obviously, who's next?
Obviously.
Who's next? What if the Rangers go out in the first round and they fire Boch? I'll come home. Yeah.
No chance.
No chance.
None chance. Unless Farhan is gone.
Your Farhan laugh stays and Gabe Kapler dies.
It's unfortunate.
What a world.
Yeah.
What a world.
It's a shame.
Gosh, damn. You're like that Seinfeld gif. Huh, what a shame.
Yeah. What a shame. I mean, what do
It's
you
like
do?
when the Cowboys lose. Oh, such a shame.
Every time.